Hey, JK here. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.
Y'all ready for this?
Welcome back to 30 Teams in 30 Days. You can tell that I just put my hair up from day 9 to day 10. We're recording the same night, and I'm actually watching the World Baseball Classic, just like I told you all I would be. It is Taipei and Australia, so saw Travis Bazana roll out to first. In any case, I'm also trying out a new lav mic. We're gonna see how that does. Feel like my other mic, which is right there, might be having a little funky problems. We'll see. In any case, day 10, we're gonna be talking to AL Central winners from 2025, the Cleveland Indians. They are not the Guardians. They're not the Spiders. If you want to be the Spiders, you're that old, that's fine. In 2025, the Indians went 88-74 and lost in the wild card to the Detroit Tigers. Now, just like we talked about the Tigers, in order for Cleveland to get to the wild card, they had to overcome a 15.5 game deficit in the division. Fun fact, that is the largest deficit of all teams to come back from MLB history. It was 14. I can't remember who it was. I'll put it right here after the fact, but just know that 15.5 games is now the new record, and Detroit, you hold that record for worst collapse. In any case, moving on to the offensive stats, you know this is a J-Ram show. He led in everything except at-bats, hits, and strikeouts. Stephen Kwan led in at-bats and led in hits, and Gabriel Arias led in strikeouts. In fact, he played in 29 less games than J-Ram and also struck out 92 times more than J-Ram. That might put into perspective how far apart Stephen Kwan, J-Ram, and the rest of the offense or players in general for the Indians they are. As we've mentioned, Stephen Kwan, we're going to go ahead and hit on him. He knows how to get on base, he knows how to hit, and he has a patient eye. He's been in the league 4 years, and 2 of those 4 years, so 50% of the time, he has had more walks than strikeouts. And even in the 2 seasons he had more strikeouts, they were only by 5 each. So he's actually only struck out less than 10 times more than he's walked. That's wild. I don't think he's going to challenge for the batting title anytime soon, but he'll at least be in the conversation for a few weeks or a few months until he peters off. Now he'll stick between like 270 and 290, potentially getting up to 300, but I think 406 is out of his range. Now we've talked about how good Stephen Kwan is. We've talked about how good J-Ram is. So is there such a disparity between those two and the rest of the Indians? Yes, there is. And what I'm going to do is talk to you about numbers-wise how big that difference really is. We're going to hit some of the wider margins, but you're going to get the point. Hits-wise, J-Ram didn't even lead the team. It was Stephen Kwan. But between J-Ram and the next closest, third place, Kyle Manzardo, 58 hits. 110 for Manzardo, 168 for J-Ram. The hits we just talked about do accumulate into total bases. And between J-Ram, number 1, and Manzardo, who was number 3, there were 85 total bases. So again, you have 58 hits and 85 total bases. That is a huge disparity. And that's not like the 6th, 7th player. It is the 3rd best player on the team for each of those 2 categories. Next category we're talking about is strikeouts. We're going to go with Arias, who had 160 plus, all the way down to Stephen Kwan, because he had fewer strikeouts than J-Ram, 98. Holy cow. Foul stat we're going to talk about is stolen bases. J-Ram had 44. The next closest, and that was again not including Stephen Kwan, was Daniel Schneemann. He had 9. Okay, Schneemann had 9. 35 stolen base difference. Now you have your individuals who have a ton of stolen bases on your team. There's going to be that one guy with a ton, but you usually have a few guys that have some stolen bases. The Indians did this deep dive into the numbers, make you think more highly of Stephen Kwan and J-Ram, or wonder how in the world both those guys are still in Cleveland because of the disparity with how bad their surroundings are. One guy we did mention a few times was Kyle Manzardo. He was in his first full year starting and definitely made the most of it. He did have 27 home runs and 70 RBIs, so he was one of the 2nd or 3rd best players on the team. I say 2nd or 3rd because he had the 2nd most home runs and he had 2nd most RBIs. On top of the homers, on top of the RBIs, he actually had a pretty decent eye at the plate. He did have 48 walks and 135 strikeouts. You might be thinking, that's 3 times as many strikeouts as walks. But But let's keep in mind, he's a power hitter. He's going to be trying to swing the bat. He's going to be trying to get the ball in the air because he had the second most home runs on the team. More numbers, and numbers never lie, but they do in fantasy. But right here, these numbers, they're going to tell a whole different story. So it's going to be important that we look at some positive, okay? Because it sounds like I'm crapping on this team, and I don't mean to be. True fits. So there were 8 guys who had 10 or more home runs. That's good. You have some power on this team. And there's not a whole lot of power hitters on this team, so it's good. They're getting production from pretty much everyone, or a little bit of production from everyone. Not a lot. There's also something to look at other than Arias. There were only 3 guys that had 100 or more strikeouts. So good eyes at the plate and making contact as well, having a productive out. That is huge. That's going to move a base runner over. It's going to bring a run in. So again, always trying to be smarter and not have to work harder. Something else I noticed, Bo Naylor had 70 hits last year. So what? He had 70 hits. Why is that important? 22 of those were doubles. One of them was a triple. 14 more were, in fact, home runs. So he had 38 extra base hits out of the 70. That is a 52% rate where you are not stopping at first and getting second, third, or even home. If Bo can bring that average up, and if he can just do a little bit better job getting on base or have the individuals in front of him get on base, wow, he could be a monster when it comes to RBI. So I'm not saying he's my sleeper, but I'm also saying he pick a little bit of power like his brother. Bo Naylor could be a very valuable asset there in Cleveland. I promise there's going to be more excitement when it comes to the prospects, but now we're going to move to pitching where there's still not a whole lot of excitement here. Other than my ECU man, Gavin Williams, woo, go Pirates. There was a whole lot of 4+ ERAs here in Cleveland and betting, but we'll get to that in just a second. There was some improvement, and it still resulted in subpar results. We'll talk about it in a second. First of all, Tanner Bybee forgot how to pitch. His ERA jumped, his whip jumped, his strikeouts dropped. What in the world happened, dude? Like, is there something we don't know about? I don't know. He certainly did not help the rotation. But a few guys who did help their cases and also helped Gavin Williams, Logan Allen. He still had a 4+ ERA, but he dropped his ERA by 1.5 points. So 1.5 point drop in ERA, and it's still 4.3. So good Lord, dude. How was it before? Yeah, not good, not good. His whip, he dropped that a little bit as well. So again, being smart, what he's doing on the mound is going to be crucial. Keep the runs off the board and keep the guys off the base. And speaking of that, we move to Slade Cecconi, who absolutely revolutionized himself. I say that because he dropped 2 points off of his ERA, actually 2.3 points. He also dropped 0.23 points or tenths of a point off of his whip. So it was at 6+ ERA. Now it's at 4+ ERA, so a little better. It resulted in more wins, more games in general, and more strikeouts. So something was going right for Slade. As we move to another guy who was not doing well, you have to talk about Luis Ortiz. He did bet on himself, lost, and also probably will never play baseball again. So that was silly. Moving on to the bullpen. I love this bullpen. I really do. Really hate to see Emmanuel Clase leave, but at the same time, you're going to be that silly, dude. How much money did you make? I don't even want to know. But you have Cade Smith, who is a monster. You have Hunter Gaddis, who is a monster. Then you have Sean Armstrong coming in. That may not sound like a sexy name, but he is a former closer, and he's a setup guy. He's going to be a huge part of that bullpen. Once you get to the bullpen, I think you'll be fine. But that's the issue. You got to get through a starting rotation pitcher to get to that bullpen. Yikes. As we get to the prospects, there are 6 guys in the top 100. One of them is already at the major league level. Parker Messick. We'll actually just start with him. He did pitch pretty decently in 6 games for the Indians. Kept a respectable ERA. Didn't have too many walks. I think 6 in like 35, 39 innings. And struck out like 40+. So, again, not bad. He should be fighting for a rotation spot or absolutely be the 6th man in that rotation. But the 2 main guys that decided for it, Travis Bazzana Told you before watching the World Baseball Classic, he slammed a home run. So that's pretty cool. Glad for him. And also Chase DeLauder. DeLauder did not play in the World Baseball Classic, but both of them are very, very hyped for the Indians. Both of them do have injury concerns. And that's the frustrating part, man. You have these great, hyped up prospects who cannot stay on the field. The best ability is availability. We will be seeing both of these guys sooner than later. Likely starting the season at the big league level. Maybe not the lottery. Still got a little bit of work to do. Running wise, because he's broken his ankle like 14 times. Like same ankle. Wild. We'll see Bazana. He'll probably be pushing for second base, but because there's some crowding in the infield, not spectacular crowding, but some crowding, he could play outfield as well, which that's never going to be a spot the Indians are like, we have all the help we need there. No, they need help everywhere except for third. That's the only place they're pretty solid at. So the other guys, low A, double A, not really going to be making an impact right now, but we will for sure be talking about them later. Let's move to the Indians off-season transactions. They lost a few big names, maybe not the most productive names, but the names that you heard and potentially loved if you were an Indians fan. John Kinsey-Noel, big Christmas, gone with the Orioles now. Will Brennan, he's gone. Had a decent year a few years ago. John Means, not do as much for you as you thought he was going to do. You are bringing in Rhys Hoskins. That's your big move. As we move to the fantasy assets, we're starting with the corners. You need Manzardo. You need J-Rim. Moving to the outfield, you need Steven Kwan. Again, he's not sexy, but he gets on base. He's going to get some runs. Hopefully a few more stolen bases for you, and going to improve your OPS and OPB. I don't know if you're going to want to look at any of these guys unless you're in like a 15 or 20 man league. Bo Naylor, if you are in an extra base hits league, he will absolutely be a key to have, maybe a second catcher or something like that. Rhys Hoskins, again, super deep first, but there's so many first basemen. Look at him and then scroll past him. If you're in Dynasty, you want DeLauder, you want Bazana for sure. Those two guys. Moving to the pitching, Gavin Williams, woo, go Pirates. Maybe Bybee. You got to see some improvement, though. I don't know if he's a day one start. I'm going to set you on my bench, let you get a few good ones behind you. Then I might throw you in. Super deep Logan Allen. Even deeper Parker Messick, because he's not starting yet. Now, once all these other guys absolutely peter out and they just mess up, Parker Messick will probably be the next guy. Bullpen. Oh, my gosh. Get Hunter Gaddis and get Cade Smith. Both those guys pick up saves. Both those guys also pick up holds. Both those guys can strike people out. So pick up those two guys. As we move to the bold predictions, I believe that Cade Smith is going to have 35 saves. I believe that Tanner Bybee is going to win 10 games and have a sub-4 ERA. And then J-Ram, I think he's going to absolutely go off. He's going to have a 40-40 season. 40 home runs, 40 stolen bases. He's already got the stolen bases. He had 30 home runs last year. I think he'll be able to get some more. He's going to have to, if the Indians want to win the AL Central again, and if they want to go further in the playoffs. That's going to do it for day 10, ladies and gentlemen. We are done with the AL Central. 2 divisions down, 4 to go, 20 more days. Then we get baseball. I'm not counting that Wednesday between the Giants and the Yankees. So, what's the next division we're going to? National League East, starting with the Nationals. So we get to talk about one of my favorite young teams, super young outfield that is only going to get better, or they better get better, cut down strikeouts and get on base a little more. In any case, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We are done for day 10. I'm excited. Are you excited? We also get Friday to watch USA play, wherever they play, I'm not sure. And that's at 8 o'clock, I believe, at night. So, you already know what I'm going to be doing. This is JK. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.